Hello, everybody. It's time for the Expendable Show. It's Sunday. So we were having those camera technical difficulties on Wednesday, so I went out and got a new cam. So it's a little darker than I was expected, so I might have to get a light to shine like this part of my face. But hey, Bonnie. Hey, Rachel. So let's get into the show for the day. So if you like my show, like, subscribe, and ding the bell. It's how the channel grows. Every week I get more and more followers, which is exciting. I like having people watch my show. Because I'm a narcissist and narcissists like themselves. So we'll take it all day. I don't like this. It's like really darkening the one side of my. I might have to get a light over here, I think. Yeah. Okay, well, this is the first time I've turned the cam on, so I didn't know what to expect. I was hoping it was going to work. But let's throw our sponsors up there real quick. This episode is brought to you by Gatsby Trading Solutions and the Islamabad Telegraph. And if you're in Atlanta in February 4th, come to the 404-Day Weekend Music Festival. Mainly so that way there's one other white person besides me there. No, it's going to be a good time. Last year we had like close to 20,000 people show up, and it was a very, very well-ran event, and there were no issues. And this year we're hoping to bring in a few more people. And Dark Shadows Revisited. Okay. All right, Bonnie. Rachel has a feeling that tonight's family meeting is going to be a wild one. It may be. It may be. I might have some tricks up my sleeve this week. So let's get into our statistics real quick. So gas is going up, $2.98. They're already warning us that with the Iran conflict, that gas is probably going to shoot up for a temporary amount of time. So everybody be prepared for that. And don't panic. It's going to go back down once this whole thing's over. It's not going to last forever. The mortgage rates did go down again. So we're at 5.750. So that is that's nice to see. Trump's approval rating went up almost an entire point. He's at 43.1. So attacking Iran was popular amongst Americans. But the Dow is below 49,000. It closed on Friday at $48,977.92. So let's get into this U.S.-Iran situation. I've been on pretty much Islamic media all weekend, getting interviewed about my opinions. Of course, I back President Trump in his decision, and they know that I back President Trump in his decision. For the most part, the Pakistan channel that I work with a lot is very receptive to what President Trump has done. However, the radicals in their country, which they're having problems with, attacked our embassy in Karachi, and our Marines had to lay the smackdown on 22 dead bodies. So that's not something they want to go ahead and try. They're going to defend that embassy. That's technically U.S. soil as soon as they get on that. I try, Rachel, because if I don't do it, like there's nobody else out there really doing it. The news channels that I deal with the most in Pakistan are kind of quasi-liberal. When I'm on India is more conservative. When I'm on Euronews, they're socialists, but they're nice people. They're nice to me. However, I always want to make sure that we get how us Americans really feel out there, like what we think, what we want to accomplish, because they're a lot of the people who talk down on the United States internationally, they think we're just trying to invade Iran and steal stuff. And that's not what we're trying to do. There's 47,000 dead protesters that President Trump gave Iran plenty of opportunities to chill, and they wouldn't do it. And so what happened is on them. And I don't feel bad. I know President Trump made all these promises in the campaign, no new wars and whatnot. However, you can't predict the future for the next 4 years. You can't predict that Iran is just gonna. You can't predict Iran's just gonna sit back and do nothing. You can't predict that Russia is gonna sit back and do nothing, or China, or Venezuela, or Cuba. These things, they're gonna happen. A war can happen at any moment. Look at Pakistan and Afghanistan. They are at war right now. Pakistan declared war on Afghanistan. So, and that's over the Taliban. The Taliban keeps doing terrorist stuff to Pakistan. So now there's a war. So there's 2 wars going on over there right now. Well, we haven't declared war on Iran. So, I mean, we don't have boots on the ground as far as I know. I can't speak on behalf of the defense contractors, Rachel, but we may have some defense contractor groups on the ground. But as far as I know, no American soldiers other than those at the embassies are there. So, as everybody knows, the Ayatollah has been killed. So I remember I had to do a school research project. I think when I was still going to Crestview in elementary school. No, I might have been in junior high when I transferred to another school. And I remember there was a picture of a bunch of world leaders. And I remember I took this photo home to show my dad, because I had to pick somebody on this list to do this little project on. And the Ayatollah picture was on there. And I remember I thought my dad was going to lose his mind. He was like, screw him. He's horrible. And so I've always go Knights. But that stuck with me for all these years. It constantly reminded me, like, pay attention to this Ayatollah guy, because he's my dad don't like him and he knows everything. So I had to, as I got older and started to realize, when I got involved into international politics, I started to figure it out. Like, hey, this Ayatollah guy, he is not a good guy. They're very, very oppressive. I think they were the 3rd most populous, oppressive country in the world. So that's not good. Some of these liberals, like, what do you want us to do? You want us to just pretend like 47,000 people didn't get massacred in 2 weeks? You want us to just turn our back on that? You want us to turn our back on all the women that they slaughter on a regular basis over there? Like, what do you want us to do? You guys are the biggest humanitarian party in the world, but you don't want to be humanitarian towards the Iranian people. And that does have everything to do with America first. But you have these people, like, especially mainstream media. Fox is just as bad. They look at everything through this very narrow scope. They need to take a step back and understand why this is going on. President Trump is crippling the BRICS nations. This has been the plan. He's been slowly picking off the BRICS countries, and he's saving Russia and China for last, because he's choking off all their little annoying little allies. Cuba's going to be next. As soon as Cuba runs out of resources, that country's going to uprise against that government, and that's going to be the next democratic country. And we're no longer going to have to worry about the craziness in Cuba. So President Trump is brilliantly plotting out the downfall of BRICS. Why is that important? Well, because China's soaking up all the natural resources in the world. If China takes all the resources that they want, they're going to run the tech industry. And that's the future of the world. We know that. So we can't let China have control over the future of the tech industry. We can't let them have control over AI. We can't let them have control over all the boards in our phones, in our cars. And, they can't have that, because they can turn us off just like that. President Trump is playing his cards right. And I know that every liberal in America is going to disagree with me. They're going to say he's a fascist and he's trying to murder people and he's firing on hospitals. No, he's not. we're over there. There's an objective, and we're trying to achieve the objective. And as soon as we realize that either this objective is not attainable anymore, or the objective has been accomplished, we are going to pull out of there. There's not going to be a 21-year conflict like Bush, Obama, Biden. Just go down the list of people that kept these things, these long conflicts going on where we went over there to not win. Right, Bonnie. Even the Iranian people are happy. You can just about turn on anything internationally, and you can see the Iranian people are happy. It was to the point where they had to get on the TV and tell them to stay in their house because there's still bombs going off out there. So it's turning into like the Iranian people have the opportunity to be liberated. If you hear stories from some of the baby boomers out there, Iran was a great country before the Ayatollah took over, and they were prosperous and they had a really good future coming ahead of them. So we want to see them get back to that. You know, I don't really have a problem if they want to run their country like a socialist society, but as soon as you start oppressing violently to your people, that's when you're done. That's when I got no patience for you anymore. So same thing in China with the Uyghurs tribe. Nobody cares about them. Nobody in the world cares about them. The NBA still buys the sneakers from the slave labor of those people that were slaughtered and mutilated by the Chinese government. They don't care. The NBA's garbage for that. And basically anything that we purchased from China was off of that slave labor from that tribe. And they did not want them reproducing, so they mutilated them, castrated them. They pulled the uteruses out of the women, anything that they could do to keep those people from procreating, because Xi Jinping does not like those people. Rachel, I agree with you. I hope the Iranian people, I hope that they come up with some kind of game plan and get that government back. I know they're talking about, I don't know if they've already officially done it, but they do have another Ayatollah that they're looking at, that they're pretty much saying he's going to be the next one, and he's just as bad as the other one, they say. So my theory on it is that President Trump's saying, go ahead, take over your country, get this government back, and we'll cover you with air fire. And I think this is going to be a done deal. President Trump has offered them to turn over their arms. They have not done it. So every military personnel with the IRGC is probably going to end up dead at some point. It's just a fact of the matter. That's how wars work. But the U.S. and Israel launched a massive coordinated attack after Iran refused to scale back its nuclear program. Iran has fired waves. I watched this CNN, that stupid lady who's on CNN. She's like, well, if we annihilated their nuclear capabilities, then how do they still have nuclear capabilities? And I don't remember who was talking to her. It was a conservative, but they're like, you do realize, like, when a tornado hits a house, you can rebuild a house. If we knock out their nuclear capabilities, they have the ability to start rebuilding it. And like, she just wasn't getting that through her head. Like, just because we blew it up, it doesn't mean you can't try to build it back. Like, what kind of idiot? They were trying to say that Trump had no reason to go into Iran. And it's just, the CNN anchors just make themselves look more and more stupid every day. So Tehran reported at least 57 people were killed in 60 separate strikes on the capital within 24 hours. There were explosions reported across West Asia, including Dubai and Oman's coast, where an oil tanker was hit. It is ignorance, Rachel. I agree. So Iran vows retaliation with the force never experienced before, so they say. Although we seem to be able to get very close and inside their airspace without them ever knowing. So I don't know if their radar is like divining rods or something, but they're not as powerful as they say they are, and I think we're proving that to be true. Missile barrages continue into the second day with dozens injured. In Israel, they did hit a city. They've been hitting targets. The Iron Dome isn't knocking down everything, as we knew from the 300 that they shot off at Israel. What was that, 6 months ago or whatever? But it's not going to knock everything down. Something made it through. So we've seen some deaths there. I think 8 to 9 people have died, with over 20 people seriously injured. So Iranian leadership has appointed Alireza Arafi to head an interim council after the Ayatollah's death. So they do have an interim leadership, and he'll probably end up being dead soon too. President Trump announced major combat operations are underway. U.S. Navy assets, including carrier groups, are actively supporting strikes on Iranian nuclear and military sites. So what I've noticed and what I've been seeing some of these military experts talk about is they just wait on Iran to shoot off missiles, and then they go backtrack it to where it came from. Then we go in and blow that launcher up. So eventually they're going to run out of the capabilities to fire missiles, and then it's game over. Because I've been watching the Iranian Air Force getting blown up all day by our battleships out in the Gulf. So Israel has struck Iranian army headquarters and air assets. Israel officials claim partial control of Iranian airspace. Now, once we knock out their radar and take out the rest of what they need to at least habitate some of the airspace, they're done. And we're close to that. I don't think this lasts longer than a week. I know General Jack Keane, he thinks it's going to last months and months and months because he's a general expert that has all kinds of ties to the defense contractors. He gets kickbacks from them. So, of course, he's going to say that. So we do have some people that are condemning it, some of the greatest world leaders ever. North Korea has condemned U.S.-Israel actions as illegal aggression. The UK jets have reportedly entered the conflict supporting U.S.-Israel operations because they screwed up. Iran, I don't know what their game plan was, but to fire on other countries, like Riyadh got hit. Why would you fire on the Saudis? If you think you're going to get any help from them by shooting missiles at their country, Bahrain, Oman, like those countries are not going to help you. So this has turned into a regional conflict, and that's been one of the questions I've been asked over and over again when I've been on international news this weekend is what are the odds of it being a regional conflict? It is a regional conflict already. Iran has fired on countries that were neutral, and now they've brought them into the war. The Saudis are not happy. Kuwait is not happy. These guys want their get backs, and they're going to get it. There's President Trump has had this planned out for quite some time. This is, I believe this has been in the works for longer than a year. Like I said, the way to cripple China and Russia is to cut them off from natural resources, and to prevent people from buying their natural resources. That's how you kind of slit the snake's throat without having to really touch it. So that's what I believe that is going on. The BRICS nations are gonna be weak. China has been slowly influencing countries all over the world, and that's not a good thing for America. Because once China's being very strategic about what they're doing. They have a base in Cuba. They do joint operations with Canada. They have installations down in Mexico. They have stuff all over the place down in Central America. And my friend Jenny Lynn, she's from Guyana, and she told me that if you go into to the capital Guyana, it looks like China. So there's a problem. China is a problem. And as long as our politicians, our congressmen, Mitch McConnell, and people like him, scumbags like him, that continue to scratch the back of China in exchange for access to America, we're going to continue to have this problem. Trump is the only politician who has made an aggressive effort to stop this from happening without going to war against China. Going to war against China is not going to be good. That's going to be a bloodbath. But cutting off all their resources around them is going to be a lot less catastrophic to America. So this is a way to gain our future control over China. This isn't going to affect us in the next 5 years. This is going to benefit us in the next 15 years when China is at that point where they're like, we can take America now. We don't want them to get to that point. So that's what Trump is doing. He's slowing that process down. The same thing with Europe. That's why we don't trust Europe. Trump doesn't trust Europe because Europe is bought and paid for by China as well. That's why Macron acts the way he does. He's a China supporter. That's why Canada acts the way they do, because their prime ministers, the last two prime ministers, were super China supporters. You can even go look at past videos of Justin Trudeau. Like, he couldn't wait to get noticed by Xi Jinping. You're right, Rachel. It is a modern war strategy. It's Trump is ahead of the game. Pete Hegseth is ahead of the game. Remember all those crazy things that people was talking about with Pete Hegseth? Oh, he's just a Fox News contributor. He's starting to really, really set himself apart from the rest of our war secretaries. Actually, I can't even say that because they're all the Secretary of Defense. Pete Hegseth is the only one that I've seen that's worthy enough to hold the title of War Secretary. So that's the rest of these guys were all clowns and shills and political appointees that couldn't hold anybody's britches. So there's a lot going on over there. And every time, like, you can turn away from the TV and 5 minutes later come back and there's a whole other set of information going on right now. So Iran does have a leadership vacuum in place. They have a constant next man up system. So we're starting to see that, which is why they were able to instantly fire back, because they have a next man up. We killed like 40 of their ranking officers, and they just promoted people right up the ladder. They have contingency plans for that kind of stuff. So U.S.-Iran direct conflict is no longer theoretical. The U.S. is now openly conducting large-scale strikes, moving beyond proxy warfare, which I think is necessary. Now that they're talking about this jihadist that shot up Austin on behalf of Allah. So that's going to be a problem. And I need everybody to make sure that when you're out and about, be wary of who's around you, because the FBI is running around telling everybody, watch out for these cells. They're going to start popping up, and we're seeing them. So just be aware of your surroundings when you're out and about, especially if you're in a city atmosphere. So regional war risk is extremely high. Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, Yemen could become active fronts depending upon Iran's next moves. They're getting bombed on by Israel and the United States so bad right now that I don't think they have time to focus on anybody else. So strikes reportedly targeted nuclear facilities, but Iran's remaining capabilities and intentions are unclear. So now I want to talk about Trump's authority. So if you get on X or you get on liberal TV, they're going to say this is an illegal strike. This is not an illegal strike. Same thing as when we went through this with Venezuela and everything else that Trump has tried to do. They get on TV and they say it's illegal. So that way their flunkies, the sheeple, they'll go, Trump did something else illegal. We need to impeach him. Let's get out in the streets and protest because he's a fascist dictator. No, that's not true. Go know your law. Go know your constitutional law. Know the policies and procedures of what the president is allowed and not allowed to do. So we're going to go over it because there's a lot of morons out there that don't know better, or they can't read or something. I don't know. Maybe they went to the Randall Weddell School of not reading. I'm not sure. So Article 2 of the U.S. Constitution makes the president the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. This gives the president broad power to direct military operations, order strikes or deployments, respond immediately to perceived threats. That sounds like he's protected under Article 2 under the United States Constitution. Pretty sure. The authority is intentionally flexible, allowing rapid action without waiting for Congress. Congress holds the power to declare war. We don't need to declare war. For one, there's a time frame, and we'll get to that. They also have the power to fund or defund military operations. If they defund military operations in the middle of this, they're going to be in for a big, huge problem. They're going to lose voters. They also have the power to regulate the armed forces. They do not have the power to stop Donald Trump from doing anything. Donald Trump is within his legal responsibility to defend this country and defend other countries. In theory, this creates a balance. In practice, modern presidents often act first and consult Congress later. What the law requires. The War Powers Resolution of 1973 was designed to prevent unilateral, open-ended presidential wars. It requires the president to notify Congress within 48 hours of introducing U.S. forces into hostilities. It also requires the president to withdraw forces after 60 days unless Congress authorizes continued action. So President Trump is legal for the next 60 days. So all you Democrats, you just got to get over it. We got 60 days to do damage. And he's going to. This is going to happen. And then we have, it also requires the president to provide regular updates on operations, which he does. So he is within his scope of action right now. So when all these idiots get on TV, they're trying to gaslight you. That framework is still the law today. Presidents of both parties have often claimed operations are too limited to count as hostilities. Presidents of both parties have often argued that existing authorities apply, or existing authorizations apply, such as the 2001 AUMF. They also relied on Article 2 powers for short, intense operations, which is what we are doing right now. A short, intense operation, which is protected under Article 2 of the United States Constitution. President Trump is very well within his legal right to attack Iran. Now, politically, that's a different story. President Trump did say, I will not have any new wars. Well, I think we're at that point where we could hypothetically, without legally declaring it a war, this is a wartime attack. But I am giving him a pass on that because you can't predict the future. I don't care what kind of president you are, unless you're Miss Cleo, you're not going to be able to predict the future. So yeah, it sounded great and everything when he said it during the campaigns. I believe that he fully intended on not having new wars. However, this Iran situation, they brought it on themselves when they started genociding their own people. And the Democrats wanted us to just turn our backs and let it happen. It's not going to happen. President Trump drew a line in the sand. Iran didn't want to come and negotiate anything seriously. So President Trump said, I've had it with these guys. I'm going to do something that no other world leader has dared to do before. I'm going to punch Iran right in the mouth, and I'm not going to send them a B-2 bomber full of pallets of gold. Like, Hillary Clinton did, like Barack Obama did, like Joe Biden did. We're not doing that. And George Bush. They all did it. Just send them some gold. That'll shut them up. No, it shuts them up until the next time when they want more gold. So this isn't the way it works. Like, we can't just pay off our enemies. We're just enriching them to do more damage. And then we go and they go blow up Israel. And who fits that bill? We do. American taxpayers. So we're paying for the artillery to blow up places that we got to go back in with taxpayer money the second time to help rebuild and to help fight. We are getting double waxed on the funding with this whole situation because bad presidents of the past, bad leadership of the past paid off Iran and made them rich. And now Donald Trump's got to clean the mess up. This wouldn't happen if Biden, Obama, and Bush wouldn't have given him a bunch of money. And Hillary Clinton. She was one of the brokers that brokered the deal. It's very simple. This is a very simple concept. Trump's going to take the blame. He's going to get the blame for the mistakes that the past presidents have done. So military operations, they often require immediate decisions, which is why Article 2 applies to President Trump. Because when there's an immediate decision that needs made, they had the opportunity where they had all of Iran's top brass in one spot. The opportunity was there and they took it. And they didn't have time for Congress to filibuster around and stall and create stall tactics to give permission to strike. They had one opportunity, they seized the moment, and they executed it with precision. The military operations often require also intelligence protection. They have to protect the intelligence. We can't have that stuff leaking out. And we know that the Democrats are leak everything like a sieve, and some Republicans. They also surprise and utilize operational security, which is what happened. All the above was a factor in this. Congress is often divided, slow, or reluctant to take responsibility for war decisions. This creates space for presidents to act unilaterally, which is the case because nothing would have got done. If this would have went to Congress, nothing would have got done. Guess why? Because we're in an election year. It's 2026. A lot of seats in the Senate and House are up, and nobody wants to have "I voted for a war" on my political resume right before an election. Because every video that your opponent makes is going to be about you starting a war in Iran. In moments of crisis, the public tends to expect decisive action from the president, not legislative debate. True, facts. So it's yet to be seen. There's more to come. We're going to be watching this closely for the next week at least. And then I think we're going to start to see, I'm already hearing some whispers about the Iranian, the new leadership wants to do some peace talks. So we'll see what happens with that. Now, I spoke briefly about the Pakistan-Afghanistan war. So I want to get into the funding because probably a year ago, I was asked to write an article for the Media Line, which is it's a media outlet that is ran by, it's based out of New York, but it's ran by the Secretary of State's department. It's funded by the Secretary of State's department. So I wrote an article for them, and they wanted to know about USAID funding going to Europe and getting redirected to the Taliban. And that's what's happening. That's how the Taliban stays in business. When Trump got rid of, when he put the clamps on USAID, that stopped a lot of Taliban funding. So they had to go back to getting money other ways. Now, they are big in the opium and heroin trade. A lot of the dope that makes its way over here is from Afghanistan. They also have smuggling networks. Everything the Taliban does to make money is illegal. So for the Pakistan government to attack the Taliban, I view it the same as us attacking Iran. It's a necessary thing that has to happen. If you don't let it happen, they're going to pluck you off a little bit at a time until you have no choice but to go into an all-out war with them. And so I think that Pakistan's in the right by going after the Taliban in Afghanistan. You know, you see what they did as soon as we pulled our troops out of there. They started massacring people, and that was on Joe Biden. They also rely on third-party foreign donations, which I just explained. That's how they're doing it. They were basically funding. The Taliban was getting funded for a long time off the American taxpayer dollar. That's a fact. They're also intercepting humanitarian aid. So international humanitarian aid is meant for the Afghan people, not the Taliban. However, some policymakers worry that the Taliban may be benefiting indirectly by taxing or controlling access to aid distribution. They are doing that. The Taliban's making money every way that they can. So some regional dynamics. So some analysts argue that elements within neighboring countries may tolerate or facilitate Taliban-linked networks for strategic reasons, but no government publicly acknowledges funding them. And no authoritative source confirms direct state funding. Of course not, because then it makes you look bad if you get caught handing a check over to them. So in 2026, Pakistan-Afghanistan conflict has intensified. Pakistan claims the Afghan Taliban support or shelter the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan group. Afghanistan denies this and accuses Pakistan of violating its sovereignty. So I'm going to be paying attention to that too. Probably be talking about that this week at some point. Now, Kentucky time. So for those of you who don't know any better, Kash Patel was in Eastern Kentucky between February 27th and February 28th. Why was he in Kentucky, might you add? Especially in some of the most troubled parts of the state. Hey, what's up, G-Bro? So he went to visit Eastern Kentucky University's Manchester campus for a law enforcement event organized by Representative Hal Rogers. So he also visited FBI Louisville field office, where he met with agents and posted photos from the visit. Additional coverage from Louisville media confirmed the same visit and noted he praised the office's recent work. What was he doing there? He was meeting with federal, state, and local law enforcement in Eastern Kentucky, attending a closed-door appreciation luncheon and panel, reviewing operations and crime-fighting metrics at the Louisville field office, and posting publicly about the visit on his official account. So Kash Patel's not going to show up without an agenda. He's very intelligent. Do not sleep on that man's intelligence. He was there for a reason. I have an idea. Well, I mean, of course not, because your corrupt FBI office down in London is keeping information from filtering up. But we do know that Newsbreak made a very nice article about how Doug Harless was killed and nobody was held accountable. And that's a big time news outlet. So, the world is starting to know, and that came out of Atlanta. So, that's something that we like. So without getting too much into that, I'm waiting on some more details about some of the things that Kash Patel was doing. But I'm going to focus more on Hal Rogers, because for one, I don't like him. One of his goons has already threatened me and said, Hal Rogers' boys are going to be after you. F Hal Rogers. That's how I feel about it. Rhino. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go through his money. So let's do that. We're going to find out who owns Hal Rogers. $98,000 of Hal Rogers is bought and paid for by lobbyists, as you can see on the screen. There's some venture capitalists, some public affairs, American Crystal Sugar. Well, that sounds like a cocaine farm. I don't know. Maybe it's not. The Appalachian Recovery Center. So you pay attention, because we're going to find this pattern that Hal Rogers embedded very tightly with rehab facilities. I wonder why. So his biggest industry donor is the lobbyist. He's also bought and paid for by defense contractors, miscellaneous defense, aerospace, air transport, PACs. Okay, we'll go over to the next one, which is elections. He's won several unopposed elections. I don't know if you guys know that. I'm sure you do, but that's not that relevant. The industries, of course, there's all his industries that pay into him. Hey, there's general contractors, crop production, the energy field, oil and gas, transportation unions. Oh, here's the pro-Israel one right there. Beer, wine, and liquor, the gun lobbies. Now we're going to start getting into the good nitty-gritty stuff. It's not that one. It's this one. Here we go. Here's the bread and butter. Cornerstone Government Affairs. You have Outdoor Venture Corp, American Israel Public Affairs Committee. Anybody heard of that? Just saying. It's amazing how the drug dealers, the real drug dealers, never get arrested. They just get the street dealers. So there you have American Crystal Sugar. There's Appalachian Recovery Center. There's Blue Origin. Here's Boeing, the Eye of the Tiger pack. Here's General Dynamics, which we've talked about on this show. They make the M1A1 Abrams tanks. John W. Clark, there's the oil company. Oh, here's Lockheed Martin, Rachel. Here's the National Association of Realtors, National Auto Dealers Association, National Multifamily Housing Council, National Rural Waters Association. Oh, here's another defense contractor, Northrop Grumman. OC Systems, RTX Corp. Here's SpaceX, another defense contractor. Here in Childers Oil. So there's a pattern that's very easily seen. Hal Rogers needs to go. He needed to go. He's been in politics since 1981. And what has he done for the state of Kentucky? Poverty hasn't gotten any better. You're seeing disaster after disaster, with people getting poorer and poorer every time. Where has he gone and asked questions as to, hey, why is some of these properties not being rebuilt from the tornado? Where's that money at? We want to see the money. What about the floods? What about the opioid epidemic? What about, all this stuff that's going on? Hey, go ask Andy Bashir why he's stealing taxpayer money to go on these elaborate vacations. Like, what? When are these Kentucky politicians, and you guys, your state's getting destroyed on X every day. Kentucky is under the microscope right now. If Kash Patel is coming himself to Kentucky, you have a problem. The director doesn't just show up just to have a luncheon with some tiny county sheriffs. Now, I don't have a problem with the defense contractors. They're important. They're research. There are times when we use defense contractors because of plausible deniability. If we contract something out to a defense contractor, the United States government has the legal ability to say, we didn't have nothing to do with that. And technically they're telling the truth, plausible deniability. The defense contractor did it. But is anybody going to go after the defense contractor? No. So for certain situations, the defense contractors are a necessary evil. Now, when you look at them, they all make stuff. So they're not just an evil thing. Lockheed Martin is very big in aerospace and missile development. We wouldn't be where we're at without the research and development from Lockheed Martin or Northrop Grumman or Boeing. Or, I mean, even though Boeing's kind of have a rough patch lately with their airplanes not being too very well built. Same thing with General Dynamics. They've been making tanks for a long time, which it used to, in Lima, Ohio, it used to be called the Lima Tank Plant. That was actually the United States of America. I'm pretty sure the U.S. government owned it, and then they privatized it to General Dynamics. So those things are relevant, but I don't think it's appropriate for politicians to be attached to things like that, because generally, like in this situation, if Congress had vote on a War Resolution Act, he's going to vote yes, no matter what. Because, for one, AIPAC, he's bought and paid for by the Jews, and he's bought and paid for by the defense contractors. So this war is an automatic yes for him without consulting his constituents. And that's the problem that we run into. That's why Thomas Massey's going to lose his election, because I'm seeing it all over social media. Thomas Massey's going to get destroyed in his he's getting primaried. He's going to get destroyed. He's not listening to his constituents. He's doing his own thing, and it's going to cost him an election. And then Thomas Massey needs to just get out of Kentucky, or go disappear on a private island somewhere and don't ever talk no more. Because the people will have spoken, and he doesn't get to speak anymore because he didn't listen to his constituents. So there's that. Now I'm going to go back into some of the people running against Hal Rogers. So on the Republican side, you have Ben Hurley, who's a realtor and he's an Army veteran. You have Brandon Monholland, transportation manager, retired Army veteran. There's Jerry Shelton. He's a Crab Orchard City commissioner and an electrician. And then there's Kevin Smith. He's an attorney, ex-congressional aide, and GOP activist. So those are your primary candidates. Me personally, I'm a big fan of Benjamin Hurley. I've seen him speaking up in Pike County against the corruption there. He is not backing down one iota. I 100% think that he's a genuine human being, and he's gaining a lot of support in that area. I think Ben Hurley is the right guy to take over Hal Rogers' seat. So I urge you, one of the issues that opponents have are, the rest of them, I mean, aren't really well known. Benjamin Hurley he's a rising star, Bonnie. Benjamin Hurley. Don't forget that. And the Democrat ones, you got Ned Pillersdorf, Michael Wine, and Billy Ray Cyrus Wilson. Those guys, they probably don't stand a chance. I mean, Ned Pillersdorf is collecting the most money out of them. But that's going to be the problem with this race. Hal Rogers outspends everybody every time. If you look at his spending, I had it up on the screen, but I skipped over it. Hal Rogers outspends everyone. I think $13,000 was all that an opponent could raise against Hal Rogers. So there is a monopoly. Now, if you look at the money that comes into Hal Rogers, I should have left it up, but I already X'd out of it. 40% of Hal Rogers' donation money comes from outside of Kentucky. 40%. So the companies that buy him are not even Kentucky companies. So I think that's something, valuable to note. I think you guys should go look through some of these districts. Those of you that are in District 5, do your homework. Let's get Hal Rogers out of there. It's time for him to go. And y'all need to donate money, even if it's $5. I know times are tough in Eastern Kentucky, but if you got $5, send it to one of these candidates against Hal Rogers. He's a clown. He's old and washed up, and he's bought and paid for. He hasn't done a damn thing for Eastern Kentucky except put his name on a highway. And to me, that's not good enough. And I don't care if Hal Rogers' people are going to come find me. Big freaking whoop. You guys ain't shit. How about that? Now, let's go into Rick Harden. So there's the governor's race. So one individual from Grayson County is Rick Harden. He's running for governor on the Republican ticket. He's from Grayson County, like I said. And we're going to go through these people as they file their paperwork and dissect them. So that way Kentuckians don't just look at an R or a D behind the name and say, well, I'm a Republican, I better vote for a Republican. We're gonna make sure that everyone's educated on who they're voting for. So WBKO investigates this was News Channel. They contacted Grayson County prosecutor Rick Harden with several questions, including why a certain incident took place. Now, we've talked about this. I think I talked about it on my TikTok before the Grayson County clowns had my TikTok removed. So basically what happened was Lanny and Darren Fentress, who live in Grayson County, there was a fire in Lanny Fentress's basement. They called the fire department. The police came out, kind of like a Doug Harless situation. They thought they were at a house where someone had a warrant. They thought they were getting ready to arrest one of the Fentresses on a warrant. It wasn't the right house. So they beat the shit out of Lanny and Darren Fentress and tased them. There's body cam footage. When you see the pictures of them coming out of the house, they're both bloodied up. The Litchfield Police Department beat the shit out of those two. And for nothing, just because their house was on fire. And they thought they were at somebody who had a warrant's house, and they weren't. Now, Lanny and Darren Fentress filed a lawsuit and won, but Rick Harden slow walked that case for a long time. So Police Sergeant Dennis Newton, he was on paid administrative leave while he was facing criminal charges. The judge was Rick Harden. He delayed the grand jury indictment for as long as he could, thinking maybe this will go away. That's what I think, that he was thinking. This guy is part of the Grayson County corruption system. He has yet to come out and stick up for any of the victims of the corruption, including Jason Early and Jason Early's family, who is suffering from a massive corruption case right now involving KSP, several Litchfield police officers, and some of the pretty much the majority of the court system, including Rick Harden. So if you can't not be corrupt, or if you're not speaking out against corruption at the local level, what makes you think that we can trust you to fight corruption at the state level? We're going to depend on you. Well, I'm not. I don't live in Kentucky. But as someone who pays attention to you, I'm going to make sure that your offices are going and looking at these counties that have mismanagement of funds going on, harassing the people, threatening the people, falsely arresting people just because of political agendas. That's not supposed to happen. You can't just show up at the wrong address and shoot and kill someone and there's no consequences. Yeah, KSP, for the most part, there's some good KSP officers, but there's a lot of really bad ones, and they're like their own organized crime syndicate, Rachel, and they refuse to address it. The state of Kentucky refuses to address the out-of-control nature of their KSP officers. These guys get sued all the time. You're right. But we need to pay attention to Rick Harden, find out what type of guy he is. He just recently got into it with the Litchfield Fire Department on the internet. Like, how professional is that? It's almost like as bad as these politicians that want to take jabs at me on the internet. Like, look, you're the as taxpayers, it's our right to criticize you for doing your job well or not well. So I'm going to go over that. So a Kentucky fire department and Commonwealth's attorney had a back and forth exchange over an incident where teenagers allegedly stole thousands of dollars of equipment from the fire department. In a Facebook post, the Falls of Rough Fire Department called out the Grayson County Commonwealth Attorney Rick Harden and noted that the teens accused of stealing the equipment won't face any charges. Rick Harden did not charge those kids with anything. They stole over I think it was $25,000 worth of gear and got nothing. That's enabling behavior. And he gave 100 excuses to why I should have just gave him a slap on the wrist. That's it. Nothing. So here's what we're looking at. Mr. Harden in his office even asked the fire department to reduce the amount of money owed for the gear. So who's supposed to replace it and make up the dividend? Oh, that's right. The taxpayer of the city. So how is that fair? Those kids should have paid it. They stole it, destroyed it, whatever they did with it. It's their responsibility to replace it. That's what restitution means. So the fire department made a statement. They said, this is exactly why there are so many repeat criminals in our county. The incident happened in July 2022, and the teens allegedly stole over $25,000 worth of gear. Harden responded to the fire department's post in the comment section saying, the teens deserve the second chance. Any of you that think teenagers don't deserve a second chance before being shipped off to prison are part of the problem and definitely not the solution. That doesn't sound very conservative to me. I would have a tough time believing that he's a Republican based upon that statement. He's probably another one of those closet Democrats that have to run as a Republican because they're in a Republican district. So this is atrocious. Yeah, exactly right, Bonnie. These teens that's a different type of monster these days. Maybe when I was a teen, you could have got away with something like that because we would have been scared to death. Like, oh my God, the whole town knows that I stole this from the fire department. These kids nowadays, if you give them a pass, they are going to slit your throat, guaranteed. And that's enabling behavior. It was wrong, unethical, unlawful for Rick Harden to do that. Now he's an elected official. Y'all elected him. So that's going to be your baby to deal with, Grayson County. And the state of Kentucky is running for governor. So I would recommend that everyone remember his words that you can commit a crime and there doesn't have to be accountability. It's a very liberal, leftist, progressive thing for him to say. So I hope y'all hold on to that. But I'm going to dig into him a little bit more. There's a lot to cover. And that's going to be the show for the day. I'm out. Peace.